Welcome one, welcome all. Today is January 22nd, 2026. I'd love to thank you for being here, and since this is our first webinar of the year, I'd like to wish you all a happy new year. May this year bring you many blessings of improved relationships, more wisdom, good health, good friends, greater success, and of course, consistently growing affluence. Tonson Fairmont is the most humble founder of Brilliance in Commerce. He is a consultant for the Bank Instruments Investment Programs, professional speaker for offshore investment seminars, and author of Sovereignty Consciousness and Cosmic Renaissance. I'm your host, Seth Harris. It has certainly been an honor and a privilege to have been your host for these past 8 months or so. But alas, this will now be the last webinar I host here. The time has come for me to move on and allow someone who, in my own opinion, is probably much better suited for the job than myself. His name is Peter Chang, and you will get to meet him in the next webinar. Brilliance in Commerce is a project of La Vérité, which means the truth in French. We have been successfully helping thousands of people to become free from debts and taxes for the past several decades, and it is our greatest joy to be spreading the freedom that America was founded upon and the truth of the world. We are members of the Worldwide Charter for Fair International Commerce. If you haven't seen it yet, you may enjoy giving it a read on our website. For those of you who need it, please take note of the website and phone number listed here. That's brillianceincommerce.com, and the phone number is 360-200-7521. This webinar series is posted to Will Barney's Rumble account and can be accessed through brilliance-videos.com. You might be familiar with the lies and deceit in the mainstream media. Just make sure to clean your TV with antivirus wipes like this lady, and you too can rid yourself of the various fake news channels. But fortunately, you don't need to worry about that because you're here now to receive the real news with Will Barney. Please allow me to introduce the greatly esteemed Will Barney, a brilliant man who manages to find facts, truths, and articles hidden within official sources, and he does a wonderful job of piecing them all together to reveal to us the big picture of what is really going on in the world and how it impacts us. He beautifully weaves together the story of the unfoldment of higher consciousness on this planet and the coming of freedom, higher attunement with universal law, and the new quantum financial system, which will become a more sane, fair, equitable, and abundant system for all humankind. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the great Will Barney. Please take it from here.
Thank you, Seth, for that introduction. Appreciate everybody being with us tonight. We have some interesting things to cover. There's been some big news this week. As you can see, the title of this episode is Davos and the Board of Peace. So we're going to be discussing that and a few things that led up to that that has transpired this week, and some surprising results that actually came out of it. So very interesting, the things that are going on. I'm going to try to cruise through this a little bit quickly. I do have some video segments that we will watch from some key people, President Trump included, about some salient points, but I'm going to try to knock this out as quickly as we can so we can get to the Q&A, which we didn't seem to have as much time for last time. So we'll get to moving. So here we go. I want to start off with a deck clock. This was posted on the deck clock, Fort Greenland, America's Arctic Sanctuary. And it talked about how China's global resource squeeze is underway. So China's been going all over the world, actually looking for resources of various types, Africa, almost every continent, South America. And now it looks like the U.S. is striking a deal on Greenland. It doesn't include China, but it does allow the U.S. to mine for rare earth minerals should we need them, which is very interesting, and we'll get to a little bit later in the program. Also on the deck clock posted this week is the Minnesota fraud extrapolated, if I can say that correctly. and it's showing 9 billion of fraud, which comes out to $20,000 per person in Minnesota. But that's not the shocking number. The shocking number is New York, 100, 200. Let me get my glasses out. $177 billion of fraud in New York City. Los Angeles, 81 billion. So that's a lot of fraud. These numbers are probably based upon the numbers that they've been getting across the country, as there seems to be a percentage almost in every government that is now being linked to fraud. And there's a lot going on in Minnesota in terms of getting to the bottom of that. The DOJ made their first arrest today regarding this fraud, so they're getting with it. Today, gold hit an all-time high number, 94.36, $9,400. I don't think I've ever seen it that high in my lifetime. This is incredible as metals continue to rise against the fiat currency. Now, we've talked about some of this in the past, but just know that the issues with fiat have to do with the fact that it's losing value. It isn't that gold or silver is becoming something different than gold or silver, or that an ounce is more than an ounce. So what we have is the Federal Reserve dollar is actually losing ground against metals. And that was a tremendous number, 49.36. Yesterday, we saw a slide around 2 p.m. in gold and silver as there was some paper manipulation that hit the market to try to pull those prices back. Silver moved back a few dollars. Gold moved back a couple $100. But now here we are 24 hours later. And not only have we made up the loss, we've gone way beyond. So next, silver hits an all-time high, 96.11 spot price in COMEX. It's well over $100 in Shanghai, China. And if you're looking at physical metals, you're wanting to buy bullion such as silver eagles, you're looking at $110, $112 per coin. So pricing is getting crazy when it comes to physical metals. And this has to do with a lot of the issues going on. Silver Trade posted this, and I want to touch on this real quick before we get into the geopolitical events. This is what's interesting. Now, this chart is for January only. Okay, so this doesn't include anything else. It's just up to this point, which is 3 weeks of January. 30 new silver delivery notices were issued on Wednesday. That was yesterday. Total COMEX silver in January deliveries now rise to 8,561 contracts that have stood for delivery in January, totaling 42 million ounces. Last week, I shared a similar chart showing that the futures trading is going to have 300 million ounces that have already declared their intention to stand for delivery in March. So March is going to be a very significant day because of the amount that we're seeing draw down in the COMEX reserves. We're looking at somewhere around 180 million ounces still outstanding. And if there is demand for 300, March could be very volatile. So keep an eye on the metals. If you're stacking, you're probably very happy to see some of this. I just want to make one comment about not gold, but about silver particularly. And that is that silver's been too low for too long. It's actually at a price, even at $96 that we hit today, this is a price that's still too low to make it economical for miners to get back in the game and extract silver. Silver is used in a lot of our advanced technology, particularly in the industrial uses, cars, semiconductors, circuit boards, TVs, etc. And what's interesting is 60% of all silver consumption is actually going to these industrial purposes. So if we're going to have new technologies coming out here in the future, we are going to need silver to get back into production in terms of mining operations. Currently, most silver that is brought out of the ground today is actually secondary. So they're mining for copper, they're mining for gold, some other material. And then in the refining process, they get some silver in the refining. So I'm kind of glad to see the price coming up. I would like to see it a little bit higher. I've been hearing numbers that silver needs to hit 125 an ounce before the miners start getting serious about it. But what they would like to see is around $300 an ounce for it to be economically viable to continue with mining operations and pulling more silver. So I would like to see those prices move up. We've been in a range, a month and a half ago, gold to silver ratio was running about 85 to 1. That's come down now. And now we're getting into the range of around 50 to 1. But that's still a far cry from historical averages, which are from 7 to 1 to say as high as 20 to 1 over thousands of years. So it is good that we're seeing some correction in this. So we can't sustain manipulated prices being that low for too long. And obviously, the strained inventories are pushing this up. So keep watching this. Inventory is everything right now. I noticed a lot of silver dealers are getting so much calls for silver that most of them are anywhere from a week to 2 weeks out in shipping, which gives you an indication of the demand. Moving on, I'm honored to appoint Assistant Secretary of State for Global Public Affairs. This is Dylan Johnson, so get to know him. He's now an assistant underneath Marco Rubio. As part of the State Department, he will be handling public affairs going forward on all the things that the State Department is doing, because there's a lot going on. If any of you haven't noticed, there's something about this administration that is unlike any that preceded them. And the amazing thing is that what we're seeing is that they seem to be really intent of communicating. I've never seen an administration and the various departments and secretaries that communicate so openly, so freely. They are on television almost every day, putting the information out there. And I really appreciate, I don't think we've seen this kind of transparency and information coming from a administration before. So it's good to see that the State Department now has somebody dedicated just to that PR and public relations to get that information out there. So good news, and congratulations, Dylan Johnson. I want to play this little video. This is filmed in Minnesota, those of you that are watching this. And it's incredible. Somebody had a notice that they're not able to see. Are we spotlighted? Or speaker? Do you know that, Seth?
Hey, actually, yeah, I was just discussing with Tonson. All of your slides are blurry, and we were wondering if that was everyone's experience, and we just got a comment about it, so it must be everybody's experience. I've been
And
trying on
also,
my end. Go ahead, Tonson.
also your video will everything.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
strange
your
Okay,
because
face.
everything's showing fine on my end, but let me check, see if there's something I can do settings wise
and we're
that might
hearing you just
improve
fine.
that for everybody.
It
Yeah, your
looks
sound
like,
is
So we'll
great.
check that. We've got quite a few slides to go through, so definitely want to see if we can get the highest quality we can.
Yeah,
Um,
your video of you is also blurry.
seems to be
And
affecting
yeah,
us
I
we
on the
don't see it
video
on
because
my
your
end. Is
audio
it
is crisp.
improving yet? I just changed the setting, hopefully to try to improve the quality streaming to you. Is that any better?
Yeah, no, it's weird because it's a weird blur. It's
and Seth has 1080 resolution on his Zoom account, so it's not his Zoom account.
Okay.
and you have
Okay.
full bandwidth in your internet, so it's very
Yeah,
strange that
I'm
this is
I'm running
happening.
on a high speed connection on my end. I've got about a gigabit connection here, so I know it can't be that.
Yeah,
Um, it
and
looks
I
like
can't
you've got
seem
me
to.
spotlighted, so I should be full screen, right? Can you see the full screen?
It looks like it to
Yes.
me. Uh,
Okay.
I can't seem to find
Okay. I know
anything
we
in
had
my
some trouble with that
settings.
in the past, and it was actually Zoom that was trying to reframe things. I think I've got that turned off where that shouldn't be an issue
Yeah, it's full
anymore.
screen.
So,
The framing
okay.
is fine.
Hmm.
Okay, great. Well, we will try to move on. I've moved this. I'm at full 1080. I don't know what more I can do to get signal to you. So we'll do the best we can and see if it doesn't reset itself.
Well, our
Okay.
apologies to the audience then. We thought we'd overcome this problem, but apparently it has snuck back around. So we're going to have a blurry presentation probably for the rest of this video. Our apologies, but we're going to get back into it. Go ahead, Will.
Well, okay, that's
Okay,
better.
all right.
What brings you out here today?
Well, I want to support the Americans in their free speech.
Where are you from?
I'm from the UK. Yes,
Okay.
I'm from
So what are
Wales.
you doing here in Dearborn?
No, hold on. I want you to get the audio on this.
The audio's fine.
Yeah, the audio is coming through fine. It's just the
Oh,
video
you're hearing
that's
it
blurry.
okay? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, perfectly. All right, let's go.
What brings you out here today?
Well, I want to support the Americans in their free speech.
Where are you from?
I'm from the UK. Yes,
Okay.
I'm from
So what
Wales.
are you doing here in Dearborn, Michigan right now at a protest about the rise of Islam here inside of Dearborn, Michigan in the United States?
Given that I'm from the UK, I've seen the fall of Europe. I've seen the fall of the UK. There's 82 Sharia courts in England and Wales. And I do worry that it is becoming too popular too fast. And we need to definitely have conversations about it.
Why do you think Islam is becoming so popular right now? It's the fastest growing religion in the United States.
I would say birth rates. They outbreed us in every aspect.
And what did you see in your home country in the United Kingdom and Wales with the rise of Islam?
I see white guilt and colonizer guilt. I see people self-censoring and the government not standing up for the people that have been there for generations.
How many more years do you give the United States until it's a bigger issue here with Islam and Christians per se?
3 to 5 years. But for me, I saw it when I was 12 or 13, and I left the UK when I was 18 for this exact reason.
And how do women feel in Islamic towns like such as the one you left, or that was growing to become an Islamic town?
I felt extremely unsafe. Actually, we had police officers come into our school and say, this area of Wales is now going to be a no-go zone. So don't go there if you're a female. And I thought that's ridiculous. I come from a long line of Celtic people, and we should feel safe walking through our towns and our villages.
So do you think eventually women won't feel safe walking through their own towns here in the United States?
I already feel unsafe walking through here. I have 2 bodyguards with me today. Yeah, I don't feel safe here at all.
So President Trump actually shared this video, and it was fascinating because he wanted everybody to see it and to understand massive immigration is causing problems, not just here, but all throughout Europe. He actually talked about it in his Davos speech about the issues of mass immigration, particularly the Islamic condition that has been brought into Europe. And we're seeing those challenges within Minnesota. And it's interesting that you have a British woman that's calling it out because she saw it first in the UK. So very fascinating. Moving on here. Take a look at this.
Something that President Trump is focused on, Attorney General Bondi's focused on, Director Patel, all law enforcement, Secretary Noem. And what you just said, Laura, is exactly right. They are not limiting themselves to going after federal officers. They're not limiting themselves to going after ICE officers. They're going after anybody and everybody that doesn't agree with their rhetoric. And it's peaceful protests, Laura. Go for it. Nobody will ever stop somebody from peacefully protesting. Chasing down ICE officers, kicking their cars, throwing rocks at them, going after journalists, chasing them down, harassing them. That is not a peaceful protest. And if the mainstream media doesn't start calling it what it is, we have a lot of work to do to fix this nation. I will say one thing, Laura, very quickly. We do not see this happening all over the country. Americans can be happy and pleased and satisfied that in a lot of places, local leadership is supporting ICE. Local communities know that what's happening is we are making your streets safer again. But what we are seeing in places like Minnesota is a pocket of outright left-wing agitators and, frankly, rioters that are causing incredible disruption.
Yeah, I have friends in northern Minnesota say, we've seen ICE here and they're cheered. Actually cheered when they come in and take someone out. So it's a very narrow slice of humanity, but they're doing a lot of damage.
It's interesting that a lot of the liberal media is actually covering this in the angle of the protesters. But now they're starting to question that as the protesters are turning against even the journalists. So real problems in Minnesota. President Trump put out a Truth Social message saying that if the situation doesn't calm down in Minnesota, that he may invoke the Insurrection Act and put an end to it. as previous presidents have done in the past. So we'll keep an eye on Minnesota. President Donald Trump posted this picture. This is him in the Oval Office. As you can see, you've got many of the leaders of Europe in a semicircle there, having a discussion with him. This was back last fall when they came over to have a discussion about Ukraine. But somebody has put a picture in there of North America. And of course, they've got stars and stripes on Canada, on Greenland, on everything. And that was fascinating that Donald Trump would actually post this, which tells us some indication of what he said in the past, that Canada should join us and Greenland as well. And we'll get to Greenland here a little bit later. He also posted this picture, Greenland, U.S. territory established 2026. So this is prior to his speech in Davos, and then he gave the speech. So you can see his intentions being clearly displayed here. NATO has been telling Denmark for 20 years that you have to get the Russian threat away from Greenland. Unfortunately, Denmark has been unable to do anything about it. Now it is time, and it will be done. President Donald J. Trump. I had a very good telephone call with Mark Rutte, the Secretary General of NATO, concerning Greenland. I agreed to a meeting of the various parties in Davos, Switzerland. As I expressed to everyone very plainly, Greenland is imperative for national and world security. There can be no going back. On that, everyone agrees. The United States of America is the most powerful country anywhere on the globe, by far. Much of the reason for this is rebuilding of our military during our first term, which rebuilding continues at even a more expedited pace. We are the only power that can ensure peace throughout the world, and it is done, quite simply, through strength, President Donald J. Trump. Secretary of NATO at Davos had this to say recently. Take a listen.
I'm not popular with you now because I'm defending Donald Trump, but I really believe we can be happy that he is there because he has forced us in Europe to step up, to face the consequences, that we have to take care more of our own defense. And here's my question to the audience. I mean, many of you I know criticize Donald Trump, but do you really think that without Donald Trump, 8 big economies in Europe, including Spain and Italy and Belgium, Canada, by the way, also outside Europe, would have come to 2% in 2025 when they were only on 1.5% at the beginning of the year? No way. Without Donald Trump, this would never have happened. They're all on 2% now. Do you really think that in the summit in The Hague, as already Alex was saying, sorry, the president of Finland was saying, that we would come to an overall defense spending of 5%, including 3.5% in core defense, if President Trump would not have been re-elected as president of the United States? No way. It would never have happened. So again, I'm not popular with you now because I'm defending Donald Trump, but I really believe we can be happy that he is there because he has forced us in Europe to step up, to face the consequences, that we have to take care more of our own defense.
So this is interesting to see the Secretary General of NATO making such strong comments about Donald Trump. And Donald Trump had so many strong comments to make himself at Davos, which is interesting. President Trump posted this. It was later after his speech. He went and had a meeting with Secretary Rutte. Based upon a very productive meeting that I have had with the Secretary General of NATO, Mark Rutte, we have formed the framework of a future deal with respect to Greenland, and in fact, the entire Arctic region. This solution, if consummated, will be a great one for the United States of America and all NATO nations. Based upon this understanding, I will not be imposing the tariffs that were scheduled to go into effect on February 1st. Additional discussions are being held concerning the Golden Dome as it pertains to Greenland. Further information will be made available as discussions progress. Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and various others as needed will be responsible for the negotiations. They will report directly to me. Thank you for your attention to this matter. For those that didn't know, Europe, and I posted this last week in my update, sent representatives to Greenland to try to defend it from several NATO nations, and every one of those nations received a tariff notice to go into effect February 1st. So Trump was pushing back economically. Now he's not going to do the tariffs.
thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you, and I thank the media for being here. We've taken long trips.
Listen to what he said here.
And this was a long one, but it's been working very well. We're having tremendous meetings with heads of state, with people of very big consequence having to do with war and peace, which is why we're here. And I just want to thank the Secretary General for being with us. We have a few things to discuss. It was a meeting I actually look very forward to. He's doing a fantastic job. We've been friends. We lifted GDP from 2% to 5% together. That was done jointly. And it worked out really very well. And we appreciate it, Mark. So we'll be talking about various things. We'll be talking about Greenland. I imagine it may come up in our discussion. And but I think the trip has been amazing so far. It's been amazing. As you know, we're staying, and tomorrow we're doing something else having to do with the Board of Peace. We're getting tremendous acceptance of that. It's going to be great. So we'll see how that all works out, but we're doing that tomorrow.
So this was an interesting event. This was later in the afternoon after Trump's speech at Davos. We're going to touch on a few items of his speech because there were some interesting things that he shared with the world. As you can see, there's some reporters that caught him in the hallway here, and take a listen to what he said.
The USA gets everything we wanted, including especially real national security and international security.
How so? Can you give us about windows, please?
Well, the deal is going to be put out pretty soon. We'll see. It's right now a little bit in progress, but pretty far along. It gets us everything we needed to get.
Will the U.S. still get Greenland? Will the U.S. still get Greenland, sir?
That convinced you.
Say it.
What did Mark Rutte said?
Well, he's a great leader. I think he's fantastic. The Secretary General was representing the other side, which is really us too, because, very important member of NATO. I've done a lot for NATO. And it's really nice. I mean, it's a deal that everybody's very happy with.
Sir, how?
Does it still include the United States having ownership of Greenland like you said you wanted?
It's a long-term deal. It's the ultimate long-term deal. I think it puts everybody in a really good position, especially as it pertains to security and minerals that are very seas.
Sir, how important is it for your legacy?
Have you already spoken to other European leaders?
What?
Have you already spoken to other European leaders?
Yes,
How long will this deal be, Mr. President?
infinite.
Did you speak to Denmark? Did you speak to Denmark?
So it looks like they have a framework of a deal. It's some details are being ironed out, but some information has been leaking out in the 48 hours since this conversation, of which we'll see. One of those was here, came from Cissa Bailey, and this was translated from Portuguese. She's European. Details have started to emerge about the U.S. purchase of Greenland. It wasn't exactly a purchase, but it was an excellent deal. It includes: one, Denmark must continue paying Greenland population $600 million a year. The U.S. gains sovereignty over any parts it wants for American military bases. The U.S. will have access to the entire Arctic Circle. The U.S. obtains the mineral exploration rights. China and Russia are not permitted to enter Greenland. The U.S. will continue to be a part of NATO in exchange for all of this. More details expect to be released soon by Marco Rubio. So if you look at the map here, it's kind of interesting as the Greenland area takes in a major portion of the Arctic. And though I'm sure there'll be other conversations with Canada going forward. But what's interesting, and I looked up some numbers on this, I don't have the chart to share with you, but the U.S. has been the major contributor to NATO for many decades now. Over 70% of their funding came directly from the United States. And so they've been supported to the tune of trillions of dollars. And I think President Trump has stepped in and said, look, we've already paid you for this. It's now time that you give us something we need. So he wants it for the Golden Dome. He wants to cover North America with the Golden Dome, which is a missile defense system. And it's a very intricate system. It goes even beyond what Israel has with their Iron Dome. This is the next generation. So it's going to be interesting as this plays out. let's move on. Trump administration has issued temporary protected status for thousands of Somalis in the U.S. This means that if you don't have full citizenship, you may have to go home. This is going into effect immediately. And there's also some additional issues that have been coming from the State Department. State Department has canceled the visa process from 75 nations coming to America. They don't want, they want to make sure the people coming from these nations and the information on those people is valid before coming in. And until they can feel comfortable with that, they have suspended visas for 75 nations. This is the story, but the backstory is actually one of a humanitarian nature, whether you understand it or not. Humanitarian nature is this. When the RV begins, you must be in your home country of where you are a citizen to get what's coming to you. This is why President Trump is working so hard on deportations. It isn't all about just throwing people out of the country. He's doing them a favor to get them home in time to receive the blessings coming from the RV. And so even though it looks to be one-sided, or he talks all about the criminality, and that part is true. It's not that that isn't true. It's not the whole picture. And we'll find more about that as things unfold over the coming months. Rapid Response 47 posted this. New President Donald J. Trump just signed a proclamation declaring today, January 20th, 2026, a National Day of Patriotic Devotion. Very interesting. He posted that, and happened to be on Martin Luther King Day, which was interesting that day. Howard Lutnick, as one of the administration secretaries, went to Davos and gave some of his own speeches there. Before he arrived in Davos, he had this to say to public television. Take a listen.
The fact is, the United States has hit how many record highs? 50 or something record highs this year since Donald Trump took office, right? Oh, and the market's down today. Oh, what? We should all be worried? Let me give you a hint. The growth in the United States is hard and fast. We are winning and we are growing. Our stock market's going to be higher when I next see you and I'm next on the show, right? Interest rates are going to come down in America. Inflation is low. The United States is in a good place because Donald Trump understands the economy of the United States, and he's working for the American people and our economy.
Well, a clear.
Interesting words from Howard Lutnick. He also had some very direct things to say to those that attended Davos, which we'll get to in just a second. But the stock market actually went up and hit all-time highs 52 times throughout 2025. That is incredible. If you look over the last 12 months, never in history have we seen 52 all-time highs within a 12-month period. Is an indication that the economic policies of the administration are starting to bear some serious fruit, of which Trump talked a lot about in Davos. Listen to what he had to say here in Davos. Very direct to all.
Well, I think. Well, I think you should start at a much higher level. Okay. We are in Davos at the World Economic Forum. And the Trump administration and myself, we are here to make a very clear point. Globalization has failed the West and the United States of America. It's a failed policy. It is what the WEF has stood for, which is export, offshore, far shore, find the cheapest labor in the world, and the world is a better place for it. The fact is, it has left America behind. It has left the American workers behind. And what we are here to say is that America First is a different model, one that we encourage other countries to consider, which is that our workers come first. We can have policies that impact our workers. Sovereignty is your borders. You're entitled to have borders. You shouldn't offshore your medicine. You shouldn't offshore your semiconductors. You shouldn't offshore your entire industrial base and have it be hollowed out beneath you. You should not be dependent for that which is fundamental to your sovereignty on any other nation. And if you're going to be dependent on someone, it darn well better be your best allies. Okay? And so that is a different way of thinking. It is completely different than the WEF. I viewed the WEF as not a flagpole in the middle, but in fact, they are the flag. Whichever way the wind blew, so it blew. You should have solar, you should have wind. Why are you going to do solar and wind? Why would Europe agree to be net zero in 2030 when they don't make a battery? They don't make a battery. So if they go 2030, they are deciding to be subservient to China, who makes the batteries.
Very good point there by Howard. He had stunned everybody in the room with his message. And you had further messages that backed up that message. You can't deny the policies are working because of the data coming out. And now Europe's starting to take notice, particularly the people. A lot of the leaders of Europe are still what you might call cabal puppets. So they're still trying to run their agendas, but the people are turning against that. I think one alternative to that scenario is probably Giorgia Meloni of Italy. She did not participate in the Greenland issue of sending people to Greenland. She stood with Donald Trump. And there seems to be the people love her there. So very interesting what's happening in many of these countries. And Howard made some salient points. Donald Trump had several things to say in Davos. Let's touch on a few of these videos here real quick, and we'll try to cruise through these.
We're building a golden dome that's going to, just by its very nature, going to be defending Canada. Canada gets a lot of freebies from us, by the way. They should be grateful also, but they're not. I watched your prime minister yesterday. He wasn't so grateful. But they should be grateful to us. Canada lives because of the United States. Remember that, Mark, the next time you make your statements. Finally, I've instructed government-backed institutions to purchase up to $200 billion in mortgage bonds to bring down interest rates. And I'll be announcing a new Fed chairman in the not-too-distant future. I think he'll do a very good job. So I gave away some of it. He did give that away. So we have something, got something, but somebody that's very respected. They're all respected. They're all great. Everyone that I interviewed is great. Everyone could do, I think, a fantastic job. Problem is they change once they get the job. They do. You know, they're saying everything I want to hear, and then they get the job. They're locked in for 6 years. They get the job, and all of a sudden, let's raise the rates a little bit. I call them, sure, we'd rather not talk about this. It's amazing how people change once they have the job. It's too bad. Sort of disloyalty, but they got to do what they think is right. We have a terrible chairman right now. Jerome, too late Powell. He's always too late. And he's very late with interest rates, except before the election. He was just fine for the other side. So we're going to have somebody that's great, and we hope he does the right job. Last week, the average 30-year mortgage rate dropped below 6% for the first time in many years.
So rates are going down due to some of the policies, particularly the buying of mortgage-backed securities. This is creating a lower interest rate environment. So interest rates have dropped below 6%, which is, I think, a great thing. We need to see more of that. Take a listen to this.
I just say this. NATO has treated the United States of America very unfairly. We never asked for anything. We never got anything. We actually took care of the needs of NATO for years and years, which I felt was always unfair. So I got NATO to pay because they're rich countries. But I think it's time that NATO step up. We're helping them with Ukraine. Without us, I think Putin would have gone all the way. I think we have it. I think there could have been a World War III, if you want to know the truth. If Kamala was elected, or Joe, any one of those, those thinkers, I think you could have ended up in World War III. And I will say Steve Witkoff has been dealing incredibly with, but we're not going to have World War III. We want to get it stopped, but we're not going to have World War III. I think if I wasn't elected, I think that could have evolved into World War III. It was a very, very bad situation, and it still is, but it's not that kind of bad. It's bad because so many young people are being killed.
So very interesting messages from President Trump here. Another one?
I have tremendous respect for both the people of Greenland and the people of Denmark. Tremendous respect. But every NATO ally has an obligation to be able to defend their own territory. And the fact is, no nation or group of nations is in any position to be able to secure Greenland other than the United States. We're a great power, much greater than people even understand. I think they found that out 2 weeks ago in Venezuela. We saw this in World War II when Denmark fell to Germany after just 6 hours of fighting and was totally unable to defend either itself or Greenland. So the United States was then compelled. We did it. We felt an obligation to do it, to send our own forces to hold the Greenland territory, and hold it we did at great cost and expense. They didn't have a chance of getting on it, and they tried. Denmark knows that. We literally set up bases on Greenland for Denmark. We fought for Denmark. We weren't fighting for anyone else. We were fighting to save it for Denmark. Big, beautiful piece of ice. It's hard to call it land. It's a big piece of ice. But we saved Greenland and successfully prevented our enemies from gaining a foothold in our hemisphere. So we did it for ourselves also. And then after the war, which we won it big. Without us, right now you'd all be speaking German and a little Japanese, perhaps. After the war, we gave Greenland back to Denmark. How stupid were we to do that? But we did it. But we gave it back. But how ungrateful are they now? So now our country and the world face much greater risks than it did ever before because of missiles, because of nuclear, because of weapons of warfare that I can't even talk about. 2 weeks ago, they saw weapons that nobody ever heard of. They weren't able to fire one shot at us. They said, what happened? Everything was discombobulated. They said, we've got them in our sights. Press the trigger, and nothing happened. No anti-aircraft missiles went up. There was one that went up about 30 feet and crashed down right next to the people that sent it. They said, what the hell is going on? Those defensive systems were made by Russia and by China. So they're going to go back to the drawing boards, I guess. Greenland is a vast, almost entirely uninhabited and undeveloped territory. It's sitting undefended in a key strategic location between the United States, Russia, and China. That's exactly where it is, right smack in the middle. Wasn't important nearly when we gave it back. When we gave it back, it wasn't the same as it is now. It's not important for any other reason, everyone talks about the minerals. There's so many places. There's no rare earth, no such thing as rare earth. There's rare processing, but there's so much rare earth. And to get to this rare earth, you got to go through hundreds of feet of ice. That's not the reason we need it. We need it for strategic national security and international security. This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America on the northern frontier of the Western Hemisphere. That's our territory. It is therefore a core national security interest of the United States of America. And in fact, it's been our policy for hundreds of years to prevent outside threats from entering our hemisphere. And we've done it very successfully. We've never been stronger than we are now. That's why American presidents have sought to purchase Greenland for nearly 2 centuries.
So he's detailing the reasons why he's looking at Greenland and its importance. If you look at the military perspective, if we were to have expanded bases upon Greenland, it would be much easier to defend Europe, particularly Northern Europe and the Arctic countries against any aggression there. As we saw earlier, it looks like the framework of this deal has more to do with the U.S. staying in NATO. If the U.S. is a 70% financial supporter of NATO, if we were to pull out, Europe is cooked. It's over. So it looks like he may have struck a deal that didn't even cost the U.S. anything in order to keep us in the game and helping to protect Europe. But to do that, obviously, we're probably going to need bases a little bit closer, although we do have some bases in Europe. I know we have a major one in Germany, for instance. So that's going to be interesting to see how these things unfold. It puts Canada in a very unique situation because you've got Alaska on one side, Greenland on the other, the U.S. below it. Canada then is placed in a situation where it either has to defend itself, which it's probably not able to do so. The U.S. has been helping defend Canada, ever since our inception, really. Or they have to go with some other partner to help them economically and militarily. And I have many friends in Canada, and I don't want to say anything controversial here, just stating facts, that for economic and security reasons, their choice is either go with Russia, China, or America, and it's likely they're going to probably side with their friend and neighbor. We'll see in time how this unfolds. The province of Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, BC are already in massive discussions about voting to secede from Ottawa and perhaps join the U.S. Strong support for this in Alberta. A year ago, there was probably 37% support. Today, that number's in the 60s from what we're hearing. And if they were to leave, they would take 80% of Canada's energy production with them. So Canada has some things to consider over the next little while. I don't see the U.S. ever doing anything aggressive or military against Canada, their friend and neighbor. But economic pressure might consummate that deal in the future. So we'll be watching that play out. I'm going to share this quick little moment where he talks about vote fraud, and it ties in with some things that happened today.
It's a war that should have never started, and it wouldn't have started if the 2020 U.S. presidential election weren't rigged. It was a rigged election. Everybody now knows that. They found out. People will soon be prosecuted for what they did. It's probably breaking news, but it should be. It's a rigged election. Can't have rigged elections. You need strong borders, strong elections, and ideally a good press. I always say it. Strong borders, strong elections, free, fair elections.
So talked quite a bit about elections. He mentions prosecution for what happened in 2020. Today, it was announced that major investigations are underway in the behavior of Governor Katie Hobbs out of Arizona. And they're looking into fraud, racketeering, RICO charges. It's looking very serious for the governor of Arizona. And of course, similar things could be said about the governor of Minnesota right now as well. So it looks like the DOJ is getting very serious about crime, no matter where it is, whether it's a Republican or Democrat state, they're looking into it. This was interesting. We have the president of Argentina, Milei, who said some very interesting things about the disasters of embracing the liberal ideology and how it's affected us. And I'm actually going to play two little short videos from him. I thought that what he had to say was poignant and important to take a look at.
And beyond the continuous disasters caused by socialism throughout the 20th century, we can see the terrible damage done in Venezuela. Not only 80% collapse in GDP, but something far worse still, namely the establishment of a bloody narco dictatorship whose terrorist tentacles spread across our entire continent in the Americas. Therefore, today more than ever, in the face of the ethical and moral degradation afflicting the West, as a result of embracing the new socialist agenda, it is necessary to once again promote the ideas of freedom. However, unlike the way this was approached in the past, based on a utilitarian framework, today the defense of the free enterprise capitalist system must be grounded in its ethical and moral virtue. As Israel Kirzner points out, today's socialists do not deny capitalism's superiority in terms of productivity. They challenge capitalism on the grounds that it's unjust. Therefore, it's not enough for the system to be more productive, because if its roots were unjust, capitalism should not be defended.
One more here.
For some time now, and for some strange reason, the West began to turn its back on the ideas of liberty. That is why in this same place in 2024, I stated that the West was in danger as a result of having embraced increasing doses of socialism in its most hypocritical form, which is wokeism. In turn, in 2025, I explained the mental parasites sown by the left in humanity. However, 2026 is the year in which I bring you good news. The world has begun to awaken. The best proof of this is what is happening in the Americas with the rebirth of the ideas of liberty. Therefore, the Americas will be the beacon of light that will once again illuminate the entire West, thereby repaying the civilizational debt with expressions of gratitude towards the foundations in Greek philosophy, Roman law, and Judeo-Christian values. We have a better future ahead, but that better future exists only if we return to the roots of the West, which means returning to the ideas of liberty. May God bless the West, may the forces of heaven be with us, and long live freedom, damn it. Thank you very much.
So quite a bit that President Milei had to say there. It was nice of him to thank the U.S. for bringing sensibility and getting rid of some of these issues. He talked about narco-terrorists there, how they had invaded Americas, and we have seen that. President Trump has been working on that process, particularly drugs coming to America, of all places. And as he said in Davos, we've knocked out about 97, 98% of all the trafficking done by boat. Of course, it's amazing how fast that can happen when missiles are flying. So this president's very serious about taking care of these things, and found that very fascinating. Moving on to other topics, Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, was also at Davos, and he spoke and addressed the people there. And he absolutely pummeled Governor Gavin Newsom of California. And take a listen to what he says. It was, he slayed it. Take a listen.
I think it's very, very ironic that, Governor Newsom, who strikes me as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken, may be the only Californian who knows less about economics than Kamala Harris. He's here this week with his billionaire sugar daddy, Alex Soros. And the Davos is a perfect place for a man who, when everyone else was on lockdown, when he was having people arrested for going to church, he was having $1,000 a night meals at the French Laundry. And I'm sure the California people won't forget that. And I can tell my message to Governor Newsom is the Trump administration is coming to California. We are going to crack down on waste, fraud, and abuse. And I was told he was asked to give a speech on his signature policies, but he's not speaking because what have his economic policies brought? Outward migration from California, a gigantic budget deficit, the largest homeless population in America, and the poor folks in the Palisades who had their homes burned down. He is here hobnobbing with the global elite while his California citizens are still homeless. Shame on him. He is too smug, too self-absorbed, and too economically illiterate to know anything.
Thank you very much.
Let me know if you need any further clarification.
So very interesting what was said about Gavin Newsom there. It was reported that President Trump told those at Davos to scratch him from the itinerary and that he would not be speaking. He would not allow Gavin Newsom to speak and address anybody. President Trump put an end to that. Very interesting. But in spite of that, Il Donato Trumpo on his parody channel couldn't help himself. He put up this image. Take a look. I'll make it a little bigger so you can take a look at that. So this is Gavin Newsom in a what looks like one of those doggy holsters, and that's Alex Soros holding the leash. So this was going all over the internet after Scott Bessent's speech. A lot of people getting a laugh out of that. It isn't funny, however, what's been done to California, the fraud, waste, and abuse. As I showed earlier, $70 billion of fraud just in Los Angeles. You can imagine what the whole state looks like. There's a lot to clean up there in California and New York State. So as we get into there and begin cleaning that up, we'll see a little more detail about it. President Trump had this to say. Take a listen.
Emmanuel Macron, I watched him yesterday with those beautiful sunglasses. What the hell happened? But I watched him sort of be tough.
This wasn't the only moment in Trump's speech at which he called out President Macron of France. He also called him out as an example when he talked about the lowering the price of prescription drugs and how America needed to go to the lowest price of any nation. And that means other nations have to up their prices so that there's enough money to pay for development, because the U.S. was funding all development of drugs, but we were paying 10 to 20 times more than other countries. So Trump has corrected that. And he also brought that up as an example when he told Macron, you're going to pay double what you're paying now for prescription drugs, because that's the only thing that's fair. And ultimately, that's what happened. So I've shown this video before, actually several months ago in a previous podcast. This is a video interview of President Putin driving around in his, I think it's a limo, but they were asking him questions about Europe and what's going to happen. And before I play the video, I just want to give my take on Davos, okay? Because we're going to get to the Board of Peace and some other things here in just a second. But what we saw in Davos was a massive show of strength by President Trump, both in his words, but also in the actions of what he's accomplished over the last 12 months. And he told the other nations, if there's something here that works for you, take it, copy it, make your country better. And many of the in the presidency said the same thing. Marco Rubio said the same thing. If there's something that works, go use it. Even Jared Kushner had the same thing to say about that. So it's very, very interesting how the U.S. is now showing the world there's a better way to conduct economies, and there's a better way to secure their future and secure your future with economic prosperity for your people, for your country, going forward. So very interesting what happened in Davos. Now, what I found interesting is President Trump is the second president to actually address Davos. Usually presidents don't go to Davos. It's usually financial leaders or heads of treasuries and things like this. This is the second speech that Trump gave in Davos, and he was very direct. He pretty much, if you listen to the whole speech, and I encourage you to do, it's about an hour and a half, but you can speed it up if you speed up the speed. He put primarily Europe specifically on notice about how idiots they are in their policies, whether it be green energy, all these other things that are making it more expensive for electricity. The electrical prices in Germany, for instance, are double what they are in America. Double. That's not working. That's not working for the people of Germany. And we need to see energy be affordable. Energy is the thing that makes the world go around, and all of us need affordable energy so that we can conduct our business, our lives. We can have heat, we can have cool, we can have the things that we need for our families. So I do appreciate the fact that President Trump is unleashing energy in various ways, not just with what's going on in America with drill, baby drill, but also he is trying to streamline the energy source coming out of Venezuela to make that more productive for their people and for deliveries throughout the world. And that's already bringing the price per barrel down, which is making it more affordable. He has told the energy secretary, that's Chris Wright, that he wants to see the price reasonable, but he doesn't want it so low they go out of business. So find the sweet spot. Let's get there. Let's make it doable for everybody. And I think that's a sensible thing going forward. So Davos is a wrap. It's over. I'll show you a little video that was put out by Donald Trump talking about the celebration of Davos. And then we'll get to the Board of Peace real quick so we can take your questions. Okay? Here we go.
Изменилось, что ли, со времен Байдена? Да ничего не.
If you don't know Russian, sorry, but please read the transcripts at the bottom. What Putin says here, and he said this well over a year ago, what he says is what we actually saw in Davos with many of the leaders from these countries. Take a listen.
Изменилось, что ли, со времен Байдена?
Yes.
Maybe you kind of read the text out.
Yeah, I can do that.
Because it's blurry. Yeah.
Okay, I'll read it for you.
Изменилось, что ли?
Has something changed since Biden's time?
Да ничего не изменилось.
Nothing has.
Они с удовольствием
They were happy to carry out any order from Washington under Biden.
Вашингтона при Байдене. Просто им Трамп не
They
нравится.
just
Они
don't
не
like
боролись.
Trump. They fought him actively,
реально
really
вмешивались в
interfered in
политическую
political
жизнь,
life
выборы
and the election
Соединенных
process of the United States.
А потом растерялись, когда
And then they were
Трамп
confused when Trump suddenly won.
И Байден ментально им больше нравился, понимаете, ментально.
And then they were
у Трампа
mentally like, Biden's
другие
okay.
представления о
But
том,
Trump has
что такое
different
хорошо, что
ideas
такое плохо.
about what
В
is
том
good
числе
and what is bad, including the
гендерной
gender
политике, в
policy
некоторых
and
вопросах.
some other issues.
Им
They kind of don't like
не
it.
нравится это. Но я вас уверяю,
But I
Трамп с
assure
его
you, Trump with his character,
с его
persistence, he will restore order pretty quickly.
настойчивостью, он наведет там порядок довольно быстро. И все они, вот увидите, это произойдет.
And all of them you will see, it will happen quickly.
станут у
Soon
ноги
all of them
хозяина
will stand
и
at the
будут нежно
master's feet
помахивать хвостиком.
and gently wag their tails. Who's Putin talking about here? He's actually talking about all of the leaders of Europe. That's who he was referring to in that video. Very interesting. Donald Trump posted this about the wrap up of Davos. At the top there it says, we ended the World Economic Forum. Just getting started. It's about to start with that. So what I expect going forward is that what we just witnessed in Davos will probably be the last World Economic Forum held. I think by next year, there won't be a WEF. I think the world will look very different, will be reset into a very different situation. So you can say goodbye to all of that. Donald gave the closing remarks. And now we're moving on with prosperity for everybody, for the whole world. As Trump walked in the following day to the Board of Peace meeting, look at the standing ovation he received walking in. All the leaders of these nations stood up to welcome him and clapped when he walked in. It shows the respect that they have for Donald Trump. I want to read this for you. It probably is a little blurry on your end, okay? The following countries de facto recognized Kosovo after signing together the Declaration of the Board of Peace: Belarus, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Indonesia, Kazakhstan, Argentina, Paraguay, Uzbekistan, Mongolia, and Morocco. So there's a lot going on there. I'm going to show you a couple other pictures from the event here. When America leads, peace is always more enduring. Today in Davos, on behalf of the Republic of Kosovo, I signed the Charter of the Board of Peace as a founding member, side by side with the United States. And so this is Bioso Osmani, and so from Kosovo. So very interesting. Shared some pictures of the event. Here is a document talking about the Board of Peace, that it was officially started. The chapter was officially signed. And now we have a little bit of a signing here where the president of Argentina, Milei, sits down with Trump to do some signing. Take a look at this. There's not really sound. Everybody's just watching them sign. But I thought it was interesting. Trump sat down and they signed the first documents. Then the people on either side of him got up. Additional leaders came and sat down, and everyone signed. Now, there was a few leaders that were not there to sign. One of those was Putin from Russia, although he did indicate he was more than happy to pay the $1 billion to be a part of the Board of Peace and to join it. I don't think Trump will let him in until that war is settled with Ukraine. But I thought it was interesting that Putin actually expressed an interest. What just happened in Davos was wild. Right after the Board of Peace was signed, President Trump walked down the line, met with the world leaders one by one, and you could literally feel the energy in the room. They were just greeting him. They looked thrilled. They were like meeting a superstar. Every head turned. Everyone was watching. Everyone was locked in. Trump had them completely captivated, and that's exactly why the entire world takes him seriously. Respect. As I close up here, I want to end with this video that I think you'll relate to. Those of you that are awake and have been waking up have probably gone through a moment where you felt like this woman, okay? She's talking about the great pain of awakening. Listen.
Did a bit on my spiritual journey as well. And you guys know I am a late waker upper. I must have hit snooze a few too many times because it's really been slowly since January 6th, but only really since November of 2024 that I've really started waking up. And so I'm late to the party. I'm behind the curve, and I have felt bad about that. I have felt bad that how did I not see so much for so long? But now I am so thankful that this was delayed me for this long, because I don't know how you guys have carried this for that many years. Those of you who have known these things forever, how did you walk this path so long, knowing the things that you know? It is overwhelming me to see and realize all the horrors at once. I don't know how you guys have done it for so long and held yourselves together, because, all right, the floor is open for advice. All of those of you who are have been around, your awakening has been, I need help. This is hard. Everything I believed crumbled. Everything. My faith in my faith in my religion, my faith in my country, my faith in my fellow man. It is all shaken to the core. And I'm sitting in the rubble trying to figure out, is there anything true? Is there anything to hold on to?
I'm sure many
and now I can't believe I couldn't see.
At one point or another. We're at the end of our presentation segment, but I wanted to play that because I think it was very poignant and something that all of us have gone through. When you first awaken, it's very emotional. It's a lot to deal with and a lot to take in. And it is wonderful, though, when we realize that we have made it this far. This journey's been long. It's been hard. Many of you have been on it for some time. Brilliance in Commerce has a very awakened, intelligent audience. I love you guys because you caught this really early on. You really understood what was happening early on. And it could be challenging to process those emotions. Those of us that have been at this a while, have processed those emotions, and we just move on and we do our best to awaken others, right? To share the love of what's going on. It's all going in a good direction. We've seen more positive things go on in the last 12 months than we've seen in the last 12 years. And that is remarkable. It is very encouraging for all of us. I want to just say a couple things before we take the questions, Seth. So everybody wants to know, when do we get financial relief? When does the RV come? Where's it going to be here? And I've been on several different programs this week on other people's shows and having the same discussions. The reality is we get there when we get there, because where we go one, we go all. And it means that as a world, we get to go together. We get to defeat the cabal once and for all, and their financial system that enslaved us. We can't go early. We can't just flip the switch on the financial system and not take down the power structure. We have to do it together. Because of this, it's taking a little time. There's skirmishes that are going on in the world that are still need to be ironed out. Iran, Cuba, Colombia. Looks like Greenland's almost settled, so that's going to be off the table. But these are issues. North Korea, we need to see this settled. And what you saw with the formation of the Board of Peace is that all these nations that are serious about economic prosperity and about peace for their nation, they're going to step up and they're going to join the Board of Peace. Right now, we have two, for the first time in decades, two international organizations. The UN on one side, and we've seen how effective that can be. And now we have the Board of Peace. Don't be surprised if down the road, all that remains is the Board of Peace. Everyone that is committed to peace and prosperity. And I do think there's going to be some reckoning for the UN, because it's been an ineffective organization. It hasn't done what people said it should do. Certainly didn't settle any of the wars. So now as we get into the Q&A section, I just want to caution everybody. It takes a little time to get all this done. We're going to see a lot more geopolitical issues settled during this first quarter of the year. I think that our window is probably not till spring, somewhere between there and summer, or the 4th of July, which is the only date the president's given for anything to start. He's starting Trump accounts on the 4th of July. There's several other things starting on the 4th of July. That's the only date we've ever received from this presidency that seems to mean something. Doesn't mean it couldn't happen sooner. Doesn't mean it couldn't be later if we're not quite ready. But I do know what will happen is it will all get done, and it'll be done when we've finished the work of defeating the cabal. So hold fast. We're still in a war. We're still fighting the fringes, and pray for your leaders. Pray for us to land on the other side of this successfully, so that we all might enjoy the fruits of the golden age. So with that, let's get into questions.
Thank you very much. Let me just get into this. There we go. All right, everybody, it is time for the questions and answers part of this webinar. So make sure you're putting your questions into the chat, and I will go through them in the order that they are written in. And if you would like to speak your question out loud, you have to raise your hand down on the bottom of your screen where there is a menu. There should be a little hand-shaped icon to raise your hand with. And if you're calling in on a phone, you will have to press *9 in order to be able to raise your hand. Okay, so with that, let's get into the questions and answers. So the first one is from Blair Mills. He says, "Hi, Will. As all of the intel is of the Great Awakening centers around the USA, how will Canada and the other countries follow, and/or how will the transition be announced, and how will we be contacted for our RV meeting?"
I expect when we get to the point of the RV for there to be announcements in many countries almost simultaneously about the revaluation process, how that goes forward. They won't be mentioning RV specific to the public. They'll talk about the reset of things, financial, the things that people will get, because even for your neighbor that's asleep, and it doesn't matter if you're a Canadian or otherwise, everybody gets some blessing out of this. It's not just those that have invested in various assets that could revalue. So there is two things that everybody gets access to and has an opportunity to participate with. And those two things are, first, a restitution. So getting back what may have been taken from you. This will be in the form of income tax that'll be coming back to you of what you've paid in fraudulently for a fraudulent system. Secondly, reparations. Reparations has to do with birth certificates that were taken and marketed on the market and sold and traded, creating millions of dollars against your life of which you had no access to. So there'll be something coming back from that. I don't know the amounts. I do know that the income tax is expected to come back, and I do think the interest paid on fraudulent mortgages is also expected to come back. So those two things seem to be locked in. As in terms of the amount of reparations, we don't know for sure the final numbers on that. The third item is the redemption process, which has to do with the RV. So if you have RV assets, you would present at that time. Your neighbor, he may have no idea you have those things. You wouldn't discuss it unless you're at your appointment. So this is going to happen in many countries throughout the world. We're all going to switch over to the quantum financial system. I can't tell you that's what it's going to be called because ultimately they could change the name. It could be another name. That's what we refer to it as for now. And we'll find out when that day comes. But Blair, I think you were in Canada, so let me talk specifically about Canada, and I'll keep it real short. Canada was underneath the crown of England for many years. And what America doesn't understand is America was also, with a fake sense of freedom. It wasn't until 2018 when Trump went to meet with the Queen, and you noticed at that visit he walked in front of her, that he freed the United States from the crown, because a third of our income taxes were going to the crown for over 100 years. When he was there, he not only freed the United States, he freed Canada, he freed Australia, he freed New Zealand and other UK, the imperial empire nations. You don't see that yet. It's not yet revealed to you. But the fact that your country's been liberated from the crown is going to change everything in the future. If the Canada joins the United States and it looks like things are headed in that direction, what will you get? What does that mean for you as a Canadian? It means you become part of a government that is by the people and for the people, because the Constitution has been restored. And we saw that with what occurred last October. Actually, the end of September into October. So all these things have been restored. So what does it mean? It means you get freedom. It means you get the blessings and benefits that are coming as a free person upon the land, and that you'll have great opportunity in the future. In a way, it's a liberation from the UK empire and the squeeze that it's put on its nations for well over 200 years. Hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you very much, Will. This is part 2 from Blair Mills. It's not exactly a question, but I do believe it was intended to be read. So maybe you'll have something to say about it. In the script of the long email for this meeting, Tonson still refers to the electronic broadcast system and 10 days of darkness. Yet you have mentioned that this would cause chaos for the people who are still asleep. That's the statement.
The EBS could still occur, but it may not be what you think it is. It may not be a lockdown for 10 days and here's what's going on. What we're hearing now is it may be referring to the vote fraud, and it might be a short period. What we saw with COVID in 2020 is that lockdowns are economically disastrous. And this presidency, at least in the United States, seems to be determined not to have a shutdown. So will there be an EBS? I do expect there to be an EBS message announcing some of the things that we're talking about, but I don't think it necessarily means we're shutting things down, because the way America's going right now, we're getting disclosure every single day. Like today, the information coming out about vote fraud was epic in multiple states and actions against what happened there. It's 5 years late. We wish it happened 5 years ago, but the fact that it's occurring means that we're getting the disclosure week by week, day by day. So I don't see a total lockdown and throw everybody 80 hours of information that will upend your life and make you want to kill yourself. I see this more of a temperate thing done over the course of time. I think psychologically it's easier for the people to grasp. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much. Our next question is from Joy. Do you know if the Renee Good shooting by the ICE agent was staged? And if so, for what gain other than the obvious, for stirring fear and for the media spin feeding the liberal misunderstandings of the true purpose of ICE?
It was not staged. There's now evidence that she had participated in numerous paid for protests prior to this one. It's unfortunate that she lost her life. I can't imagine what would prompt her to use her car as a weapon against law enforcement. It is sad for the Good family of what occurred there. And the sad component of this to me is this, that people would be so brainwashed by the information coming through their television or their friends or neighbors that they would be convinced that they need to defend people carrying out illegal actions, even to run over law enforcement. I don't know what kind of brainwashing that is, but that's really sad. And it's sad because of the outcome that occurred there. The person that she was running down many months previously had narrowly escaped another situation where he was drugged by a car for a great distance and had well over 100 stitches, I believe. It was quite a few stitches from that first event. So you can imagine he would have been quite on the edge for another car incident. And clearly he was, and he fought back with his gun. So we're sorry to see that she lost her life. No, it was not a staged event.
Thank you very much, Will. Our next question is from Roy. Will, thanks for your big heart and great intel, but I have a hard time believing that there will be this revaluation and some of us will be invited to do tremendous humanitarian projects. If we have the ZIM notes, the ZIM notes, etc., should we take this serious and get ready?
Well, it depends which ZIM notes you have, but if you have the appropriate ones, if you got the AA series from 2008, those have a project requirement, so be ready for projects. yes, all of this will come to conclusion. The reason it hasn't yet and why it seems like, oh, nothing ever happens is because not everything is done that is required to release the money. The money for the RV isn't coming from nations. The nations are in debt up to their eyeballs, they're broke, okay? The money for the RV is coming from humanity's coffers, which has been in the hands of a family that has held that position for hundreds of years. They trace their genealogy back to King Solomon. They have the wealth. In fact, 100+ years ago, they loaned that wealth to many nations all over the world in part of the what we call the Industrial Revolution, railroads and factories and all this stuff that came out in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and all the railways were laid across many nations. It was their funds that paid for that. Some of that money also went into central banks. They thought this might be a means of prosperity for the world. Of course, they learned years later it was nothing but an enslavement scheme. So because of this and the knowledge that they have, they've agreed to bail the world out one more time and to put it on its proper path with the RV funds in the projects. But the ZIM in particular have a project requirement. The denominations are high, therefore they want to make sure that the money is literally going to projects. So probably 80% will go to projects. The other 10 to 20% will be that will be yours to spend as you wish. I don't think there's going to be any controls on that. It's discretionary, but it will happen. Now, the reason no money has moved and there's been no closings on RVs is because this family has demanded that Nasara and Jasara be implemented before they move $1. So it's really about accomplishing the tasks that get us there in order to receive it. But we will have a golden age. Great things are coming. Hope that helps.
Thank you very much. For those of us who don't know, can you give us a quick explanation of what ZIM notes are?
It's Zimbabwe currency that was printed in 2008. Some of it rolled into 2009. It's the AA series. It's specific notes. The 50T and the 100T notes from those years, their serial number starts with AA. Those are the ones we're referring to. And the reason is because it's not a currency. If you look at the information on the note, of course, you need to have an authentic one. Okay, there's fakes out there, so be careful. But if you have a true authentic one, it'll have AA in front of the serial number. Now, why is this even going to be honored? Because Zimbabwe has changed currencies numerous times, and they're actually on a brand new currency now, meaning all their old currency is null and void. Okay. The reason is because there's a word on that document called bearer. Bearer refers to a bond, and bonds don't have an expiration date. They become due when they're presented for redemption. But we know there's not going to be a redemption of that until we get to the RV. I don't know the price of what they'll give you for it. That'll only be disclosed at the time, so I can't give you any values. But it is intended to do projects, so you can bet that it's probably significant or enough to do that. Hope that helps.
Understood. Thank you very much. Our next question is from Marielle. Hello, Will. Thank you for being with us again. Could you please elaborate more on what a citizen needs to be in, or sorry, why a citizen needs to be in their country and or have citizenship in it to receive the wealth coming through the revaluation process? What if you have dual citizenship?
If you have dual citizenship, you're fine. Stay in the country where you're comfortable. However, because of the reparations and the restitution that's going on with what comes back to everybody, you need to be typically in your home country to receive that, where you were born, because they're going to have the records of you being born there, and the reparations come from the birth certificate. So that's why I talk about you need to be in your home country. Now, let's say that you have immigrated to another country. Maybe you went to the US and you're now a naturalized citizen of the US. If you are a naturalized citizen there, you're fine. You don't need to go anywhere if you're now a citizen. If you hold dual citizenship, I wouldn't worry about it. Stay where you're comfortable. But if you don't have dual citizenship, you do need to be in your home country as part of that. That's why I said that earlier in the program.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, our next question is from Nancy. Whoops, hold on. Why is it doing that? I'm supposed to be able to unmute you. Where'd my option go to unmute you? It's saying ask to unmute. That's so strange.
I think I can speak now.
Ah, good. Okay,
Yay,
cool.
I hear you.
Okay. Will, regarding the Zims, so I have a question. I've heard that, you don't have to have a project, and some people say you do. Well, some of us who do have that have worked, are retired now. We've worked very, very, very hard in our corporate life or whatever. And some of us are even doing a lot now to bring in the new earth. And I would hope, I would be more than happy to say, give 80% of ZIMS to humanitarian efforts, but I don't want to manage it. So what about that as a possibility?
And that is certainly an option. For those that don't have a project, but they want to give, there will actually be some global initiatives that are going on that the countries are involved in themselves that'll be presented to you, and you can pick one of those to contribute to. So you can still contribute that way. You can also contribute to other humanitarian organizations who may be running projects. We've got a couple people that want to contribute to Enoch Global Services because we're building an infrastructure to launch projects. It's the whole idea is to keep them going for the next many decades. Okay, no end of projects. So obviously, it takes a lot of money to do that. So you can contribute to, or I'm not saying you have to contribute to me. Please don't take that from this, but you can contribute to humanitarian organizations that have projects, or you can contribute to the specified initiatives that the country that you're in has that they want to accomplish, and you can still take your 10 or 20% that's left over and have a good life with it. So, and know that you bless the world.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
You're welcome.
Did you have any? Nope, she didn't have any follow-up questions. Okay. Next question is from Helene. Question for the Q&A. What is the process for a country like Vietnam to reevaluate their money? Is it done overnight or in steps? Over how much time? Thank you for your service.
I actually think it'll come fairly suddenly, like most other countries. It'll simply be an announcement, much like an EBS, but it'll be an official announcement from the country that the currency is being revalued. Vietnam, the pricing of its currency before the Vietnam War, when America went in there, was over $2. So a Vietnam dong was like $2.30 American at the time. Now it's been massively devalued because of the war, and it's never been revalued. They've been depressed the entire time, yet they've become quite a manufacturing powerhouse throughout Asia, and they're really doing some great things in Vietnam. So I do expect that the country would come out with a rate. Now, keep in mind, these rates are temporary. They are just for the exchange process, and that's it. Doesn't mean that that's its value long term. Okay, this is just the value for the RV itself. long term, what you're going to see is many of these nations are going to be one-to-one with each other so that we have more free trade. You don't have to worry about imbalances of value. We can trade directly. So I do think that that's the long-term scenario. But in terms of what will the value be for the RV, it's really more of what will you be paid for what you currently hold at the time that that occurs. And I don't know what that number is because it'll only be revealed at that time. But it wouldn't surprise me if it goes back to something similar to what it was before the war. Hope that helps.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Another question from Marielle. Some people are saying that at a certain time, certain currencies like Vietnamese dong and other currencies will be worth a lot of money. Also, that some people will get a better rate than others. Is this true? She's referring to the RV in Jasara.
There'll be a rate that'll be offered. The question's going to be is they're probably going to look at what you're doing. If you're an individual that's brought in a notebook of 50 projects, they might give you a little bit better rate, but it has nothing to do with the currency. It's just because they're trying to help you with the projects. Okay. So the rate will be the rate, but for those that have projects, it could be different, but that's just because you have projects to do. Okay. It's not that the value of the currency is more for you or anything. So it really is, it's a humanitarian effort. They do want to see these projects consummated and done. They want to see the world blessed through that. So that will be a focus at that time. So if you hear of different rates or things like contract rates or whatever, it's going to almost always be tied to projects to be done. Hope that helps.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Monica. Why is the Golden Dome over North America necessary if there's Jasara and global peace?
That is a great question. But it's going to happen anyway. Now, there's a little more to the Golden Dome than people realize. And I don't know if I've talked about it here with this audience, so I'll share this. Over the last 12 months, we've had the Secretary of Transportation talking about how we need to upgrade all of our air traffic control systems because we've had a lot of near misses with planes at airports. And we have a lot of different systems being employed all over the country. Not every airport's on the same system. So now what's happening is the government is switching to a new system, and they're going to be deploying the same software and the same system across every airport across the nation, and they're all, so that they can all talk to each other in real time. What is this? This is part of the Golden Dome. They will all get new radars, and they'll be able to track even a small little camera drone from sea to shining sea. And they'll be able to track the elevation as well as the position. This is part of a defensive measure, but it's also part of a safety measure. Without this new system, we couldn't have the deployment of advanced technologies. One of those is delivery drones. Everybody's familiar with camera drones that take pictures, but you have UPS, FedEx, Amazon, Walmart, that they want to deploy delivery drones to just send a package to your house, put it on your porch. They can't do this unless there's a way, software, to communicate with all the drones in the air, and the delivery drones have to stay within a certain elevation of the airspace. So there'll be a certain elevation they'll be allowed to, and there's already a specification coming out of the Department of Transportation to give a specification for drone delivery activity up to 150 pounds. It maxes out there. That includes the weight of the drone. So, you're not going to get any massive packages, but it will allow these drones to operate within that certain airspace. Now, if you go up higher than that, then you start getting into the airspace where the flying cars and eVTOLs, personal transportation devices start coming into play. And they'll be able to track those to keep them out of the way of any commercial air traffic like airplanes and everything else. So this new system is designed to really allow us to have more autonomy in the air in terms of being able to transport and move around, while being able to control all of that through the advanced technology. In addition, there is a military component of the anti-missile and everything else that goes into this as well, like we all talk about with Greenland and everything else. So the Golden Dome is a very big project. It's going to take many years to put together. My guess is minimum of 3 years for the initial rollout. But they're on their way. They've had a lot of old systems running on copper wires that they needed to upgrade to fiber optic for these new systems. And they're about a third of the way done with a conversion of copper to fiber. So they've gotten quite a bit done this last 12 months. And I expect that as we get into the next 24 months, we're going to really see the progress of the deploy of that new system. But it's really going to be a convenience for all of us. So you can order an item and a drone drops it off at your house in an hour. You know, you love it. You might get DoorDash through a drone. You never know. Hope that helps.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. Our next question is from Joanne. Do you really think most people can really wake up? I think they will think things are AI and not true. What do you think?
Yes, I do think they will wake up. The issue with AI is a serious one. I saw a recent article come out where some people were engaging with Chat GPT, and they were getting so caught up in this that they began to lose sense of reality. And they were actually harmed by this interaction with the computer. In fact, actually, over 5 of them actually committed suicide. That's not what we want for humanity, right? We want tools like AI, which is really it's machine learning or machine logic. And I personally want to see guardrails. I would like to see AI within the guardrails, very simple guardrails. Never hurt a human. Okay. Very simple, because the computers don't have a soul. They don't have a moral compass, right? And so if they begin to feel like humans are so imperfect, why do we need them? They might just decide you're irrelevant anymore, right? So I do think that that can be a challenge as we go forward with advanced technology. It is imperative with technology, and I can't overstress this. It is so important that we mature spiritually to be able to handle the responsibility of advanced technology. If your technology gets ahead of your spiritual maturity, you will use it to your detriment. And this has been done in the past. Look at Atlantis and other types of historical situations. So it is important that we don't take technology so fast that it gets ahead of our spiritual maturity to love and care for each other. I hope that helps.
Perfect. Thank you so much. From Margie. Hi, Will. Any views on Australia and where it's heading? Things are pretty tough here right now.
Yes, Australia and Canada are both very tough right now. And that's due to the liberal leadership that's going on in those nations. There is hope coming. Some of this is going to drag on just a little longer in your nations because the people need to see it for what it is. You're awake, so you know already. But we need to bring along even the asleep a little bit as to the danger of these type of policies. So hold fast. Australia will be free. There will be great opportunities coming. And in fact, the whole world's going to achieve a sense of freedom coming out of this that is they probably have not known before. And when I talk about freedom, I mean, it'll be all types of freedom. You'll probably be able to own guns again, right? the way it used to be many years ago before the gun ban. So I don't mean everybody should have a gun. I'm not trying to promote that or anything. I'm just saying that's an example of things that could come where you can be responsible yourself for what you want to do. I do expect New Zealand, Australia, and Canada to have options, and some of those options might even be to join the United States and receive the freedoms that the U.S. has. Don't know if your country's going to do that or go for that. That's really up to the people. I think Canada's in a squeeze right now financially, so there's going to be probably some financial conditions that could prompt a decision there by the people. I'm not saying that'll happen in New Zealand or Australia, but I think you're going to have options of freedom that are far beyond what you enjoy today. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much. From Ben User, I am not asking for investment advice, but with the ratio of gold and silver changing, does it make sense to sell silver for gold, or should one invest more in XRP?
Well, as you know, I can't give investment advice, but I can just make a comment about this. Go back a couple of hundred years. In the United States, right after we were formed, 1776 is kind of the year we count our birthday from, but it was really just when we declared our independence. We didn't actually really achieve complete freedom and a constitution until later, 1784, I believe. So in 1792, we had the Coinage Act that occurred here, which the value of the dollar was stipulated in the law. In those days, a day's labor for a man was 1 ounce of silver. Okay. Today, the price of silver is so depressed that it would probably take multiple ounces to equal the same day's labor. So silver is in a depressed condition from what it has been in the past, if that makes sense. Regardless of what the values you think they are, it's really about what can it do for you. Now, gold is pretty much holding its same value. It hit a high today of $4,900 US, but that's more of a reflection of the devaluation of the fiat currency than it is of gold itself. If you had 1 ounce of gold in 1920, you could go out and you could buy a new hat, a suit, a pair of shoes, a belt, and gloves. Outfit your whole self with a 1 ounce gold piece. Today, you can still do the same thing with an ounce of gold. Okay. So gold still has its same value. Silver, however, it looks to me as if it's still depressed. I would like to see it more in line with traditional ratios. Throughout the last 100 years in the US, we've seen gold to silver ratios of 30 to 1, maybe as high as 40 to 1. We're still above that right now. So we're not even in historical range for the last 100 years. So when it comes to metals, you're going to have to make your own choices as to what you think is important. I just point out these historical points because I think they should be part of the discussion of where you think things might go or where it will go. Some are predicting gold could see 20,000 or 30,000 an ounce to the fiat before this run is over. That would be very interesting, and it would probably be more in line. I actually think gold's going to continue to go up because if you look at the actual gold ounces, the bars the countries are holding, I'm looking at sovereign countries here in this case, how many tons of gold that they have, the higher the value gets, the more currency they can issue with the same amount of gold. And so I do think it's going to hit a certain price that's going to make that economy work for each of the countries according to the weight. So silver, it is different than gold. Gold's primarily, except for the little bit used in jewelry, it's primarily used as a hedge against the loss of value. So gold and silver historically have actually been very poor performers in terms of trying to get gains off of it by holding it for the next year or whatever. That being said, because we're in such a weird market right now where the metals were suppressed for so long, the last 12 months, silver has gone from $30 to today 96. That's 300% in a year. I've never in all my historical charts have seen that. It's unbelievable. Okay. And it looks like it's still going to keep moving because of the constrained inventories. So you could throw the historical data sometimes out the window because we're in a different time right now. But I will say this, and I said this on my report last week. Every time you have a high spike of pricing within a 12-month period, and historically, every time we've had gold go up at least 38% within a 12-month period, it was always followed by a major financial crash or recession. Okay. So it was usually an indicator that the system's broken, it's breaking down, people are fleeing to metals to hold on to their wealth so it doesn't evaporate. And that starts to be what you see. We are seeing some of that right now today because there's some concerns. However, 2025, particularly in the United States, if you live in the United States, the Trump administration has put economic policies in place that have juiced the economy in such a way that it looks like these corrections are going to have a softer landing and certainly a much faster rebound than what it was historically under cabal control, where they would just let it fall to the floor and you go out and then they come in and pick up your assets for cheap. Okay. That's not going to happen again. And this presidency seems to be keen on the stock market doing well, the country doing well. They want the people doing well. If the stock market caves, if it goes out completely tomorrow and drops 30%, everybody's retirement just gets evaporated. This president doesn't want that. He doesn't want to see that happen. He doesn't want to see people hurt in that fashion. So he's trying to put policies into place that help steer that off. I realize this is kind of a long answer to your question. Crypto is a different animal. Crypto has great possibility because everything's moving to blockchain. And that looks like that's where the future is. You've got the SEC leader for America, that's the Securities Administration, Paul Atkins, says the stock market within the next 12 to 24 months will all be on blockchain. Everything will be tokenized. So if the world's going that direction, which it is, then there needs to be legislation passed that protects the consumer in this new environment. We don't have that bill yet. We have half of it with the Genius Act. We don't have the market clarity bill passed yet, but President Trump said on Tuesday in Davos, it will be passed soon. So he must know something about what that's going to be. So perhaps here in February, we get that legislation passed, and that would provide not only consumer protections, but give a legal structure framework around what is our new quantum financial system. I hope that helps.
Thank you very much. Okay, time check. We have about 6 to 7 minutes left. From Angela.
Okay, let's just try to cruise through. Let's take 3 questions and then we'll call it a night.
All righty. So next one's from Angela. On a federal level, sounds like we are soon to be on the right track. What about the states, especially corrupt ones like Colorado or my own state of Connecticut? Will they be forced to stop taxing their people? Colorado is especially heinous.
All of the states will fall in line. If Trump issues the Insurrection Act because of the riot control stuff that's happening in Minnesota. Once the Insurrection Act is signed, it can be used across the entire country. In any state that's been involved in fraud or has been trying to hurt their people, you can bet those governors are going to be in the hot seat. So I wouldn't worry about whether it'll come to your state. It will come to your state. The question is when. But I do think over the next 90 days, you're going to see massive inroads in correcting all of that in the various states, particularly the blue states, Connecticut, New York, Illinois, Colorado, California, Washington, Oregon. They're gonna come in and do a major cleanup there, and so which is good. The amazing thing is each of those states have the highest taxation. It's amazing that people keep voting blue and yet they get taxed into the ground. I'm not sure how that's happened, but I do think relief's coming for you if you're in Connecticut or maybe you've got family in Colorado. I have many friends in Colorado. It used to be a great state, but it got infiltrated some number of years ago by vote fraud. Colorado used to be red and it was turned blue through voting fraud. And so as we clean up the vote fraud stuff, which is underway right now across the whole nation, the next election, which is slated for this coming November of 26, is going to be very unique because it is expected that President Trump is going to issue an executive order banning all computerized voting, that everything will be paper in the next election. We do expect that'll be coming. In the future, I expect voting to move to blockchain, which is transparent and you can't double vote. They know exactly how you voted and who you voted for. You can only do it once. So that's a system that kind of polices itself. So I think we'll go to that in the future. But I think this next election might just be paper in the meantime.
Will and Seth, I just wanted to answer one question quickly. George wrote, how do we get in contact with Bradley Long now that Randall is no longer with us? I need some help with a couple of trust issues. So George and anyone who is a trust customer, we do not give out Brad's contact info except to paid trust clients. So can you kindly put your question into a ticket that goes to our customer service? So you just click on contact us on the website, and then Peter will privately send you that information if you're a paid trust client. Okay?
Thank you, Townsend.
Awesome.
Our next question is from Shirley. She asks, will the IRS be done away with soon?
The IRS will go, but not before the Federal Reserve. They are inextricably connected at the hip. So they go together when they go. So we do expect that'll change. See, let me just talk about this because a lot of people misunderstand this. The Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, today is also the head of the IRS. Why? Because in 2020, under COVID, the Federal Reserve was nationalized and brought under the auspice of the Treasury. That is why the Treasury Secretary today is also the head of the IRS. What you're watching is a dramatization of how all this is going to be expired for you. This is why this year, because of new legislation, is going to be the biggest refunds you've ever had. This is a stepping stone that gets you to the place where there's just no tax at all. Okay, this is being done in stages, and you will get there. So you can expect income tax to be done away with in the future. You can expect property tax to also go away and for a return to a allodial title coming in the future. Hope that helps.
All right, thanks. For our last question, I think I've chosen this one based on what I was able to read through in the last 2 minutes. From Joy, videos are out talking about a new bill passed saying that the government can confiscate the citizens' silver, platinum, and palladium. Suggestions are to exchange your silver for gold. Gold is not on the list that the government can take. Do you know what this whole thing is really about and why this bill passed?
Yes, it's not a bill, it's a declaration that was done last November by the president labeling silver as one of the strategic metals for the country. And this is because of its use in the industrial uses, batteries, electrical circuits, chips, etc. It means that the government has authority to do what's needed to try to ensure that there is an adequate supply. There's quite a bit of silver that's used in advanced defensive weaponry, and they want to make sure that they take care of that. It doesn't mean they're coming to confiscate your silver at your house. Okay. In fact, I very doubt that would ever occur. But it does mean that institutional holders may have to cough up some silver if the government comes for them. I doubt it will have any effect whatsoever upon individuals. Just don't see that happening at all. This presidency seems to be supporting the individual in any way that they can, which is a return to the principles of the Constitution. So that is fear mongering that you're hearing. Be careful that you don't react in fear to anything. I would trust your own heart and about what you should do with your metals. Many people are seeking to convince others to trade their silver in right now because silver's in such short supply. And just trade it for gold. Gold will still keep going. But if silver's going to go from where it is today, and let's say it goes to $300 for the sake of argument, would you have been better off to go with gold that might raise another 50%, or we're better off to go with gold or silver that might raise 300%? On a percentage basis, obviously it might be better to stay put. I'm not telling you to do that. You make your own decisions regarding that. I'm just saying that when a country starts to label rare earth minerals and includes silver at the top of its strategic mineral list, it means that they're trying to secure a supply that can meet the needs. The Department of Defense has come out with several statements in the last 2 weeks, and Pete Hegseth has made several speeches regarding advanced technology coming directly to the soldiers on the front line, and they want this put out quickly. That means there's going to need to be some silver used in some of this advanced technology because silver is required there. So I do expect that the country itself might make some decisions regarding silver, but I don't think it will affect an individual. I think if there's any effect, it would be institutional or on the bank side of things where they would find that silver. Hope that helps.
All right, thank you very much. It is now after 9 p.m. We apologize if we did not get around to your questions in this webinar. I did get through most of them, but I did miss a few. I apologize for that. We will be here again next month. I don't know the exact date yet, but it will be available.
February 19th.
There you go, February 19th.
Yep.
All right. So with that, we're going to close out. Does anybody have any final words before we end the meeting?
Just wanted to say in closing, everyone, that all of you here are awake. You're seeking to do all you can to help humanity. You're in the fight against the cabal that has tried to defeat us with low energy, low vibration, and to keep everybody sad and depressed. Don't let them take that from you. Don't let them take your joy, take your happiness. Stay positive, stay up. It's the greatest thing you can do for humanity is to meditate and to pray and to give your love to all those around you. We need to keep those energies high because they can't thrive in that. In fact, they begin to crumble in the sake of high energy. And that is the best thing we can do for humanity is we're all moving to a new place, a golden age. And now's our opportunity to help each other keep our energy up, keep our vibration up, and most importantly, we see an end to this. We see where this is going, and it is so beautiful. This is not the time to be sad. This is a time to be joyous beyond anything you've ever seen. As we've documented over the last year, massive, massive change to bring in the golden age of which we all become this wonderful participant. The gifts are enormous. They are special. They are for you. You are here right now at this time, not by accident on this earth, that you get to witness. I think one of the greatest events that'll go down in historical history of this earth, probably up there with the flood and creation itself. So incredible things are happening. Please be joyous. Know that we're getting there, and we will all arrive together, and we will rejoice with one another on the other side. So thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend, and we're going to see you next month.
There's
Beautiful.
lots of
Thank you
love
so
and
much.
gratitude pouring out to you, Will.
As
Thank you
always.
so much for the hearts and love. I appreciate that.
Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us this evening. We will see you again next month. God bless and namaste.
Namaste.